good evening. Welcome to this meeting of the Full Council on Monday the 27th of April 2026. Just the Chair's opening remarks. So it's just really one where it covers a couple of bases. I just wanted to say as we move into the final year of our administration, to thank all the councillors in terms of their effort and commitment over the past year. Particularly, I'd like to extend my thanks to all of the chairs of the committees who have navigated us through, and when I did a count up, it's quite alarming, 83 meetings we held over the past year. So, Councillor Malik for Heritage and Townscape, thank you, and also Monk Nature Reserve, Councillor Franklin for Planning, Councillor Black for the Tollbridge Fund Finance Committee, Councillor Wiles for the Human Resources Committee, and Councillor Green for both Finance and General Purposes Committee and the Maddox Charity Management Committee. I also want to thank Councillor Green, who isn't here, for coordinating the second round of the grant giving, which we got through at a fair pace, shall we say, and the letters are out or going out, so I think we've just about concluded that scheme. So I'm hoping as we move into the final year we can continue to work collaboratively and constructively, maintaining the same level of commitment till we get to the finishing line next April. Thank you. Any apologies?
Yes, we have Councillor Anderson and Fortescue have personal commitments, as do Councillor Green and Gray.
Thank you very much. Okay, declarations of interest. This is to receive any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest from members in respective business to be transacted on the agenda this evening. Are there any?
No, but I just have one question regarding the Maddox funds. Is when will the transfer of funds be executed?
I need to receive back the letter, and then if it's done, it's either tomorrow. It's either going to be in by tomorrow afternoon, and I'll get it all over to the RFO, or it'll be on the 19th.
That's okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Yes, sorry, Councillor.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Mayor, apologies. Just to, it's a bit trivial, but anyway, I'll say it. It is the item on the agenda for the, where is it? It's disappeared again. STC 42613, update on the insurance claim. My name is named in that insurance claim.
Okay. And
I can say what I need to say.
right, okay, so yeah, sorry, yeah, I'll follow you.
Because obviously
I'll follow you.
I thought I mentioned it anyways.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, moving on then to agenda item 4. We've got two attachments, 4A and 4B. So firstly, we're being asked to approve the minutes of the quarterly meeting of the Full Council held on the 23rd of February 2026, and to consider any matters arising from those minutes not covered elsewhere in the agenda. Do we have any comments on those? And if not, somebody have to propose them.
Happy to propose.
Councillor Carter and Councillor Pennington seconded. If we could close on those minutes. Thank you very much.
I'm abstaining.
One abstention.
Yes.
Yes. Yep. Thank you very much for that, Simon.
Yes, please. They just
That's great, thank you. Sorry, yes, so 4B is to receive the updated action log. Right, so we've only got 4 outstanding, but I don't anticipate much discussion on these, except for, firstly, Councillor Morehouse, are there any updates around the action number 10, which is Motel disabled access and the faded double yellow lines?
Can I give that report in my report?
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Then we've got STC 12611, and this was an action between Councillor Evans, thank you for being here this evening, and myself, and this was relating to blocked drains, but also decaying, falling apart roads, potholes, whatever you want to call them, along Strand Street. I did excitedly see in the portal, the KCC portal this morning, that the drains are down to be cleansed in the next few days, which is brilliant news because it's only taken a year and a month. A year and a month. So that's brilliant. So thank you. So should we remove that? Because I know you've been chasing it with your counterparts in KCC.
There's only one drain I foresee as a problem, that's the one down by the butchery. It's full up with pea shingle.
That as well, yes.
And that has to be dug out, that can't be jet washed.
No.
I don't know whether there'll be a cost for the person that's got the drive, that's got the pea shingle on it, because it's that's blocked the drain.
Yes. Okay. Oh, right, okay. Councillor Carter.
Two of the drains in Dover Road, two of the drains in Dover Road are got replaced.
Dover Road is going to have the surface done. It's right up the top of the agenda.
Oh, brilliant.
So I'll let you know at the next meeting the exact date, but that is right near the top.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, thank you very much.
That's Dover and Deal Road.
Replacement of the two drains, because they were rusting away and were very dangerous, so that's great. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. I propose we close that action because I'm dealing direct with Councillor Evans on the element that I was interested in, and the other two I'm not looking to discuss those this evening unless anybody's really excited that we do so. No, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to agenda item 5, financial information. Firstly, so it's attachment 5A. We've been asked to receive and note the budget variance reports and commentary for the year to the 28th of February 2026. So this was presented to the F&GP committee meeting on the 15th of April. We do have supporting commentary from the finance officer on those reports. So I'll just open up to see if anybody's got any comments at all.
Thank you, Mr. I was going to say, I'm not actually on the finance,
No.
either the committees, and I don't get copies of what the things are.
They're all available on the website, Councillor.
Yeah, they may be, but there's other bits I'm not sure. When it gets to us, I've raised other things, but it's, I do like to see it in paper rather than what's it, but yeah, I'm a bit old-fashioned.
Noted, thank you. So if there aren't any other comments, they'll be happy to propose that accept those reports. Councillor Morehouse, seconded. Councillor Wiles, vote on those. That's all except for one abstention. Thank you very much. So moving on the same agenda item, we're being asked to confirm nomination of 2 signatories for 3 different events. So the first one is the end of April payment schedules on Bankline. Is somebody happy to volunteer their name? Councillor Wiles and Councillor Franklin for that one. Thank you. Second one is to confirm nomination of 2 signatories to authorise mid-May payment schedule on Bankline. I'm happy to do that.
Well, this is one I'm not happy with, because
Okay.
I still like the monthly meetings, and I think we should have the full account at the end of the month. You're asking us to sort of approve a payment which we don't even know about. 2 of them there. We never actually have ever approved payments ahead.
I know we have
No,
had
we
this
have approved the payments. It's releasing the funds that have already
on
been.
Bankline.
Yeah, that's why I do like the monthly meetings, and I do like the town councils to be signed in the month, and also the toll bridge funds, because with 16 councillors, you know, and they seem to be only the finance ones that are doing already okay.
So I would ask Councillor Franklin, if you're happy to have a conversation with the town clerk, if there's something that can satisfy your needs, then we can do that. But in terms of process, I've had assurances both from the town clerk and the finance officer that what we're doing is satisfactory in terms of what's required.
And I've been to speak to the internal auditor, and I triple checked it as well.
Yeah, I have to talk to the finance officer, and he did reassure me at the last time.
Okay, thank you. So I'm happy to volunteer for that questionable payment schedules. Anybody else happy to volunteer? Councillor Watts? Yeah, so that's self and Councillor Watts. And finally, nomination of 2 signatories to authorise end of May payment schedules on Bankline. Again, I'm happy to do that. Somebody happy to be the second person? There's only 3 of us.
Oh, I thought
At the moment,
There's no one else.
Councillor Wells, okay, thank you. Can we vote, I'm happy, well, if somebody had to propose that those people do the signatory. Yeah, and Councillor Pennington seconded, to vote on that. Councillor Tommins, I'm sure you're still supportive.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Very much.
Night shift
Thank you,
fatigue.
that's all right. Moving on to
I was
agenda items.
distracted, I was reading
That's all
that.
Public participation, 20-minute session set aside for members of the public to make representations at the meeting. Do we have any requests this evening?
No.
Thank you very much. Okay, agenda item 7, verbal report from our Dover District Councillor. Maybe we need to put that S in brackets, on matters relating to Sandwich.
First question is everybody sitting comfortably? Yes. Okay, number 1, planning application 25/00500, which is the land adjacent to 95 St George's Road, Sandwich, Charlie Tango 13 Lima Echo, and that is the erection of a detached dwelling, formation of new access and associated landscape. I'm pleased to report that the DDC Planning Committee reviews the application at the meeting held on Thursday, 26th of March. Number 2, planning application 26/00139, and that is 6A, 6B and 6C Strand Street, Charlie Tango 13-9 Delta Zulu. That is the erection of a first and second floor extension to facilitate 2 flats. And I'm pleased to report that this application has been withdrawn. Number 3, with respect to an erroneous Polders Road sign that had been placed at the junction with the dirt track on Winslow Road that leads to the Scout Hut. This is an unadopted surface road maintained by the 3 properties on postcode Charlie Tango 13-0 Lima Uniform, to which it affords access. The LLPG and Address Management Officer, DDC, who advised KCC's Rights of Way map, confirms that this section of the street is a public footpath, whereas the section running from number 1 Polders Road to Great Polders Farm is a restricted byway, and that neither section is maintainable at public expense. The Principal Design Services Officer at DDC has agreed for the addition of a no-through road T symbol to be erected, and this will either be added to the existing nameplate or a new nameplate will be ordered. They go on to say that to be British Standard 7666 geographical references compliant, an address must include a street name or an official description such as track from A to B. The LLPG and Address Management Officer at BDC has checked with KCC, who manage the street gazetteer for Kent, and their records show that the section of the street in question is also part of Polders Road. As such, the 3 properties along this section are all officially addressed to Polders Road. There may be instances where it becomes necessary to rename an existing street or part of a street. However, this can be very time consuming and may cause financial implications and disruption to residents. Renaming is only done as a last resort wherever possible, and wherever possible will be avoided. Before any changes are agreed, it is essential to ensure that a property has been clearly identified and all relevant factors have been considered. As Polders Road is a private street, the landowner must request the change of street name in writing and give the naimant the reasons why the street name should be changed. They will need to propose a new street name and the reasons for the name, such as an historic link to the land or parish. They are also responsible for providing a signed letter from each resident along the street to support the change. Once the proposed name has passed local authority validation checks and met the corresponding naming conventions, the consultation with Royal Mail, Kent Fire and Rescue, Kent Police, the local town parish council, local ward councillors and the portfolio holder transport licensing and environmental services will commence. Notices will be displayed at either end of the street or part of the street. It should be noted that with the change of the street name, there is a risk that Royal Mail may also want to change the postcode. The The rename is successful. The relevant street and address data will be updated in the National Plan with the Property Gazetteer, and the renaming notification will be issued to residents, the applicant, and those listed in the attached document. With regards to the land registry, it will not act on any notification, and will require the registered owners to contact them directly. It is the residents' responsibility to notify all relevant contacts of their new address and to cover any costs that are involved. All costs associated with removing old and erecting new nameplates will be met by those requesting a change, and that fee is £886. Item 4, I've had a contact from a resident of Hazelwood Meadow who contacted Craig McKinley MP when he represented the South Thanet constituency prior to the 24th general election. His office contacted me following receipt of the communication from the resident, and I delayed taking this further until it was established who would be the MP for the newly created constituency of Herne Bay and Sandwich. I then contacted Roger Gale MP, whose office sent a letter to Councillor Trevor Bartlett with myself receiving a copy. A somewhat nonsensical approach, given that Councillor Bartlett is the shadow leader of DDC. As I felt that the issue should not be subjected to party political games, I made both Councillor Kevin Mills as leader of DDC and Councillor Jamie Pount as the then deputy leader aware of the situation. I understand that they met with Mr Gale on Friday the 30th of August 2024, and I had hoped that the matter that the resident brought to the attention of Craig McKinley MP would be addressed. As we move towards 2 years of inertia, it is evident that this issue is being ignored, and I've been asked by residents to contact Roger Gale MP and Councillor Kevin Mills again because of a very worsening situation. So what happened was, on Friday the 23rd of February 2024, the resident's husband was attended by paramedics following a serious fall at home. The emergency ambulance that took the injured person to the William Harvey Hospital at Ashford had to reverse almost the entire length of the street because of the atrocious parking. In any emergency, as we all know, call time is critical, and this could have been a life-threatening situation. In the past, some of the residents of the street have tried to persuade Dover District Council to take a look at ways of improving the parking, but they've never had a positive response. The street was built as a social housing cul-de-sac in the mid-1960s, and since then the majority of the properties have become privately owned. But Dover District Council still had responsibility in managing the open spaces. Originally, the houses were built with garages that were allotted to each property. In conjunction with paying rent for the home, the tenant was also required to pay rent for an on-block borrowed garage if it was required. When the houses became available for private purchase following the right to buy implemented in the Housing Act of 1980, the garages were not available for sale. This allowed Dover District Council to rent these garages out to other private individuals, and these garages are now too small for most cars, and it's likely that they're only used as a storage facility. Before the sale under the right to buy scheme, residents were not permitted to park commercial vehicles overnight. In addition to the 58 houses, there are 8 council flats without their own parking facilities. There are also maybe large grass areas that could be maybe altered to accommodate additional parking. Many residents are asking for marked parking bays, not with house numbers, to encourage drivers to park within consideration. That's to stop one car taking up 2 spaces, for example. There are several instances of parking vehicles overhanging pavements, and this is making the pathways unusable for baby and toddler transport as well as the disabled. Doesn't help when there's one resident having 5 cars either. In 2013, DDC placed wooden bollards to prevent parking on the green areas, but these have not been maintained and are rotting as a consequence. When I advised Roger Gale again in February that no action had been taken, he again contacted Councillor Trevor Bartlett. And while there's been no response from him, Councillor Mills has reported this to the head of property assets at DDC, and I await his response. Since I advised the planning committee STC Planning Committee in February, there has been a further incidence of an ambulance being hindered in making an exit during an emergency call. Item 5, with respect to the meeting with the Development and Planning Manager at DDC on the status of 57 New Street that I attended on Monday the 26th of January with the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor and Councillors Franklin and Ripley, I have asked the officer to provide an update on Historic England's Heritage at Risk Register, as this might possibly present opportunities, and I stress the word possibly, that could go towards a course of action on the property. Item 6, I have asked the Parking Services Manager for progress on the road repainting issues in Sandwich, which could not be undertaken in Q1 of 2026 due to excessive rainfall. And that is mainly faded yellow lines in St George's Road and the faded keep clear road signs in markings of Moatsol, which facilitate disabled access to the car park in the direction of Winsborough Road. I've had a response on the yellow lines in St George's Road. The Parking Services Manager has advised me that he's received an invoice for the works that have been done. And I spoke to Councillor Wallace before this meeting, he says all such works have been carried out. And finally, very recently, I received my first inquiry on local authority assistance with the cost of heating oil, which is increased by approximately 150% since the US-Iran conflict began. At the beginning of January, heating oil was 58 pence per litre, £600 for 1,000 litres delivered. At the beginning of April, it was £1.45 per litre. And that is £1,520 for 1,000 litres delivered. Delivery cost alone for 1,000 litres has increased from £20 to £70. I have had a response from the portfolio holder, and he is liaising with KCC. This issue illustrates the real problems that people are facing out there. So it is very disappointing to hear all the bellyaching about a very innocuous mayonnaise effort.
Thank you, Councillor Morehouse. Councillor Pennington?
Yes, I'd like to thank Councillor Morehouse for his very full report. I did contact him in relation to 57 New Street and inquired about the latest situation in which he informed me as in his report. I do have wonder two things. Firstly, whether, as claimed by the owner when he addressed us some time ago, he was actually instructed by DDC to cease work on the building. And secondly, as several residents have raised with me, is the structure still sound or is there a risk of collapse? And if so, whose responsibility would it be?
Again, and I know you've raised that with Councillor Morehouse, and I'm sure you'll progress it and obtain a response from the suitable person.
I wouldn't like to answer any questions without being informed, so I'll endeavour to get the necessary information and then answer. I wouldn't want to claim that the building's about to fall down if it isn't.
Yeah.
And additionally, I wouldn't like to make any claim about whether the resident has been told to cease any work on the property. I'm not in possession of those facts, and until I am, I'm not prepared to give an answer.
Thank you very much. Okay, Councillor Evans, good evening.
Evening. I'm just going to give you a brief report that's what's been happening, which will affect Sandwich. The things that are coming up, as I've just said earlier on, is Dean and Dover Road are high up the list of being resurfaced. They're going to be one of the first roads to be done. But just before that's happening, the Thanet Way is going to be closed at certain points because they're going to be patching up the worst bits of that. So that'll be done first. One of the other things that we're going to do to raise money for the roads in the next year is we're going through the process of we're going to start charging foreign lorry drivers to access Kent because all of our lorries that go to France have to pay a tariff. And we only think it's fair that their lorries do a lot of damage to our roads. They don't pay any road tax. A lot of them don't use our diesel because they fill up in France, where it's cheaper and go. So we're going to start charging them a fee at some point, and that money will be go towards repairing our roads. Another thing people have been asking about library closures. There's not going to be any library closures in Kent. What we're going to be doing is putting more money into libraries. The first ones that have been done have been Dover, Funkson's next. There's one in Cliftonville, but all the libraries within the areas will be receiving more money and they'll be being upgraded. We've managed to get the debt down quite a lot. That's quite detailed in the report that I've given you for Thursday. We've reduced the debt now by £114 million. It will be in just over 11 months, and that's £3,362 a day off of the interest we've been paying. So that is without reducing any services. The biggest thing you pay for KCC is adult education. It is social services, adult social services, and we discovered that we were paying 4 times as much as Essex and Surrey for the same services. So we've renegotiated some of these contracts, and the next thing we're going to be looking at is the special educational needs, because we found out that we are being charged £300 an hour for these teachers to go out to kiddies that have education at home, and the teachers have only been paid £58 an hour, and we want to know why that these contracts were given out, and that will be quite interesting when it actually comes out, because I don't think it'll make good reading, but that's it basically. Just trying to get you better value for money. The road contract starts, the actual work starts on May the 1st, so you should start seeing a little bit more happening then. The roads are in a terrible state. We had a really wet December, January, February. We're not the only ones affected. I drive to London, the roads are terrible all around London. It's affected everybody, it's not just Kent. Okay?
Thank you.
There's one other little thing I'll say. Towards the end of the year, I'll be going dormant for 3 months, so I've got to have surgery. So I'll be laid up for at least 3 months.
Okay, thank you
Okay.
for letting us know that. Councillor Morris, did you have a question?
Yes. First of all, I'm pleased to hear about the contracts being renegotiated. I'm pleased to hear about the libraries. I'm concerned about this tariff on foreign lorry drivers, because that is going to bring up price increases. And I'm on a daily basis, I work in procurement, on a daily basis receiving letters from suppliers about surcharges because of the situation in Iraq, in the Middle East. So I do have concerns about how this is going to affect people's budgets. With regards to the roads, I do thank you very much for your intervention on the stretch of road that I mentioned to you before.
Yeah, it's awful. I see it myself, it's awful.
It has been patched up, so it's a significant improvement on what it was at Easter. However, I'm not particularly happy with the response I received from your portfolio holder for transport, Mr. Osborne. I'd like to give you these 2 letters. Read them out. But I find that the attitude is unacceptable. I am a taxpayer. I'm not a moaner. I don't write into Kent County Council on a weekly basis to complain about the roads. I brought up a legitimate concern. I do believe that Mr. Osborne would be wise to watch an episode of BBC's Panorama programme, which was broadcast on the 8th of December. And he would then see an interview with the widow of a motorcyclist who was killed because his motorbike hit a pothole, and also I think he was a dentist on a site bicycle who hit a pothole, and he suffered life-changing injuries. So,
Thank you very much. Okay, any more?
Just one more, just a quick one.
Yeah.
I'd just like to ask Councillor Evans about road signage, because sorry to say, but as well as the roads, there's a vast number of road signs that have either got bits of the sign missing, it's sort of dropped down or something like that, or in particular the posts, the
Yeah.
upright posts are rusting near the base, and there's some that are dangerous that are leaning over. I've noticed this from Dover on the Whitfield
Yeah.
bypass, but also around Sandwich, and I just wondered, I mean, I don't mind taking the photographs and sending them to you,
If you give me a list of them, I'll get on to
get them done, but they are absolutely dreadful, and there's sort of like, you know, some of them are dangerous as well, so it really needs tidying up. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Evans, because, you know, I go to the continent quite a lot, and when so you can see these lorries, they're actually topping up their tanks to maximum, aren't they? So when they've got their load, and they're actually maximum weight when they come off. So Kent really gets hammered by these foreign lorries, and I think it's a really good idea. I've always thought they should put it on part of their ferry charge, £5 a lorry, and all out, because the thousands come through every day, don't they?
Okay, so
That's
we'll,
really good.
we'll see how that one plays out. So
Yeah.
It'll be an interesting discussion. So thank you very much, Councillor Evans. I know you sent your apologies for the annual town meeting.
Yeah,
You
I'd
have
like,
given a report.
I'd like to apologise to all of
Yeah.
you for that. I did intend to try and make myself available, but I used to be 1 on Thanet Council, now I'm 5. And because I'm 5, I've now got to sign up to committees, and I've got a governance and audit committee, unfortunately. So,
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to agenda item 9, we've received a written report from the local police officer, so I don't intend to go into that unless anybody's got an observation. Councillor Carter.
Would it be possible to invite the police officer to come and address us occasionally? Because we haven't
She gets invited every time, but you know her shifts, etc., do cause issues. So
of course.
there's an open door for her to come, and it won't be through avoidance that she's not here. It
We
will
believe
be.
she's coming on Wednesday.
Yeah, she's coming on Wednesday
Oh,
to
great.
the town meeting.
Oh, good.
Hope it's accepted. So update from the councillors. I've just got a couple of points I just want to mention first, once I can get my machine back up and running. Yes. So just a couple of things I've been involved in. We had the local Heroes Awards evening at the end of March. Thank you to those councillors who were able to attend, and it was an excellent evening celebrating all good things that people do in the town, both for the community and for individuals, and all done on a voluntary basis. Last Friday, I think it was, we met with Kevin Mills, wasn't it? Or maybe the Friday before. It was last Friday, we met Kevin Mills. Yeah, I'm losing track of time. I met Kevin Mills with the town clerk, and we discussed a range of matters, but we particularly focused on assets of community value, because we discussed that in the Heritage and Townscape Committee, and I have got an agenda item on that later. And we also discussed the consultation on the future size of the parish councils. Now, what's important to note is that this morning DDC's Electoral Matters Committee met. I haven't seen the video yet, but it will be available tomorrow. Looking forward to watching it. But they took a report in from the consultation they'd undertaken. And for Sandwich, the majority of respondents that had responded, which included the town council obviously, were opposed to any change in the number of council seats. The town council and others raised valid points, sorry, these are their words, valid points concerning workload and the practicalities of staffing committees that we experience. It was also noted that several respondents expressed strong views on the importance of maintaining balanced representation between North and South wards, all things that we've made comments about. In the report that they put to the meeting this morning, in line with the majority view and the reasoning provided, the recommendation from the officers was that the number of seats on Sandwich Town Council remains unchanged. Now that will need to go to their full council, and I am assuming that the report was approved this morning, but I wasn't, I'm not sure if it's even been filmed, but I'm not sure of the outcome. But first hurdle and important hurdle is overcome. We've got the support of the officers, recommended to the council that it doesn't get changed. And if you look online, you should be able to, well, actually I've got the papers myself, so I'll share them. You can look at what other councils responded, what the view was of other parish councils. It's interesting where one or two parish council areas had no responses at all. So obviously to animate people, ours obviously had a number of responses. So it's looking like we are going to retain 16 councillors for the next period. Finally, small, and in terms of the meeting with Kevin Mills, finally a small but important point that came from the meeting with Kevin. Can I just remind councillors that they must not use their council email accounts to correspond with third parties on matters unrelated to council business. Where communication relates to other organisations or groups that any of you are involved in, it should be sent from an account. It's not a councillor account. It's clear in our rules that I was sort of hijacked with an email that was shown to me that had come from a councillor relating to non-council business. Thank you. That's my updates. Any further? Councillor Murray?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, this is pre-warned. I've been pre-warned about this. I'd like to say a few words regarding a Facebook post that I made last week. So, as it mentioned, after 14 brilliant years, I've made the decision to take a step back from organising and in the past leading Sandwich Town events, as well as being STC vet for Sandwich Community Events Association, the Folk and Ale Festival, Sandwich Christmas Lights and the Sandwich Festival. This has not been an easy decision. Those of you who know me will understand just how much these events have meant to me. I've generally loved every single moment working with so many dedicated people, bringing our town together and seeing the community spirit that makes Sandwich so special. However, the time has come for me to take a step back and, for the first time in many, many years, experience these events from a different perspective, simply enjoying them with my loved ones. This is a personal decision made for personal reasons, and I felt this is the right time. I would like to place on record my sincere thanks and best wishes to the Sandwich Community Events Association. They do a fantastic work, and I have every confidence they will continue to deliver successful and memorable events for our town. I also want to make it clear that I am not stepping away from my role as councillor, as rumours have been saying. My commitment to this council is absolute. I will continue to support the council, support the sitting mayor in any way I can, and I will proudly continue my role as acting town sergeant as long as this council wishes me to do so. I will continue and always will support the town events as councillor and as a resident, and I will continue to help them with any items such as funding and logistical help if they require. All my other commitments within STC and all my STC representations I have will currently remain the same. Sandwich is and always will be very important to me. I remain fully committed to serving our community, and just in a slightly different way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Murray, and obviously the opportunity for anybody to step into your shoes is coming up shortly. We've got the list of committees and outside bodies shared with us this evening for us to discuss at the annual Town Council meeting. Any other comments?
Yes, I attended the Dover Area Committee of the Kent Association of Local Councils last Wednesday. It was both a committee meeting and an AGM. It's disappointing there's been no change in the chairmanship or the vice chairmanship. These meetings, they have been in office now for about 15 years at least, and it's showing. There's a huge degree of complacency. The meetings are poorly chaired. There's no discipline within meetings. I am pleased that every meeting we have a speaker from a representative body. We are going to invite Kent Highways again to make a presentation on the highway situation, and also Southern Water. And I believe with regards to the checks for entry in and out of Europe is another one of the topics on the agenda. Also like to say thank you to Councillor Marie. Made a very public comment on Facebook about the support that he's going to carry on giving to the events, which I'm sure he will, so thank you for that. It's been mentioned about foreign lorries. Can I just add in extra weight on the county's roads? It's not just because of foreign lorries, it's because of oversized cars and electric vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other reports back, Councillor Black?
Yeah, went to had a Zoom Teams meeting with the local rail partnership, which was pretty useful. They are trying to make it a far more relevant body. They didn't have anybody from Network Rail there, but they're chasing that up. Councillor Mantle and I went to Whitecliffs on Thursday to the tourism people there to talk partly about town brochure, the town guide, but also about the tourism forum and some ideas for that. There was a tourism forum meeting recently. I think we need to think long and hard about what the tourism forum is now doing. It's degenerating into something that it shouldn't be, which will be a bit difficult for some people on that forum. And finally, of course, many of us went to the meeting at Bridgeborough, which is extremely useful and is again developing the tourism links that we have in the town.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item. This is agenda item 11. This is an internal audit quotation that we're being asked to approve. So we're receiving a quote from Mulberry and to resolve to appoint the internal auditor for 26-27. Now, I did check because it's a above 20% increase in terms of the fees, and what we have done is we've just come out of the 3-year agreement with Mulberry, so we've had it frozen for 3 years, so that's why we see the increase we're seeing. Yeah, so that's an observation that's been confirmed by the finance officer, so I'll open it up for any comments. When you take it down to base level, actually the amount isn't massive. The question is whether we're content to approve the appointment up in terms of Mulberry. The service we've had from them in previous years has been good as far as I'm concerned, but happy to open up the comments.
Yeah, I did some Google searches on the costs and the prices, and this is the going rate. And for the small amount of hours that they actually undertake the work for us, I don't see this as a problem at all. They've served us very well over a good number of years. I'll be very happy to propose that we continue with Mulberry.
Yeah, and I would ask though that we investigate. They do offer a fixed term period where your rates don't go up. So I think between now and next year, it would be good to investigate what that might be. Yeah. Somebody have to second that? Councillor Wiles, you could vote on that. What's the circumstance if somebody walks out? Does it not? Okay. And actually, we've got everybody's voting in your favour and against. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to the next item, which is agenda.
One member was out.
Yes, thank you. Agenda item 12, and this is. Just bear with me. DDC and sandwich agreement. So if I could just, you've all received a report on this, and I'll just summarise what we've got in front of us. So this has been a bit of a snail pace moving feast, not least, well, only because DDC have been very slow at responding. They did say it would take a while, and it did take a while. So they were telling us the truth. A number of us met with officers, including a senior officer from Dover District Council at the end of January, where a proposal was brought forward by DDC regarding the future of the sandwich agreement and associated assets. In essence, the proposal is for a clean break between the District Council and the Sandwich Town Council. The two central elements are, firstly, the transfer of the freehold ownership of the Guildhall and Market Square forecourt, depending what you want to call it, to the Town Council, and the termination of the existing sandwich agreement. Only a small number of assets now remain within the agreement, most notably the Guildhall, Market Square and 2 Market Street, which is currently the only income generating property within the agreement. So the proposed approach that was put forward is that there would be no ongoing financial obligations between the 2 councils. Well, at the moment there are Those obligations have not been met. Each party would cover its own legal costs. That's not surprising. The District Council would relinquish any financial interest in the remaining assets, including 2 Market Street, and no claims will be made by either side for past or future costs. Members should note that there are a few important considerations within what we've got in front of you. The District Council indicated the Guildhall transfer may include a protected covenant and potentially an overage clause, the details of which will need further clarification from DDC. Arrangements involving the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund will need to be resolved locally. There are outstanding matters including clarification of ownership of certain assets and agreement on items within the Guildhall. A transfer of a small piece of land of no name street will be considered for transfer from DDC to STC as part of this exercise. Am I overstaying my welcome?
Yes.
Finally, both parties are keen to progress and work promptly. When I say both parties, the group that met, a number of whom are in this room, particularly in light of forthcoming local government reorganisation, and members may also wish to consider whether public consultation will be appropriate as proposals develop. So once we get more detail, we may consider it as a need, we may not. So that's not to be determined this evening. In summary, members have been asked to consider whether to support progressing discussions on the basis of this proposed clean break and asset transfer. So could I take any comments on that? Councillor Carter.
Yeah, the only 2 items I'm pleased that this is going ahead. This is something that Paul Graham looked into many years ago, and it's been stop, start. So I'm pretty pleased that this is going ahead. Only 2 items I'm a little bit worried about is the restricted covenant and the overage, because both of those could have an impact on the usage of the Guildhall when we take it over. So I'd really like to see something as early as possible from Dover District Council about those 2 things, because if we do go ahead with this and then they say you can't use it for anything other than civic events or something like that, we would literally be handcuffed to a building that's got very limited use.
Yeah, I think they would be very cognizant already about its use today. I mean, I don't know if we can front end overage and covenants themselves, but we will not be entering into any legal agreement until we understand what it is we are being required to do and that we agree that it's acceptable. So,
Super.
Yeah, nothing will come through. Through
Thank you
door
for that.
Councillor Black.
I think what Councillor Carter has just said, there's not much point in us taking on the Guildhall if there's so many restrictions on it.
Yeah.
We already have bonds tremendously expensive, and unless we have very high degrees of freedom to do something, we're going to be saddled with this, and the costs ain't going down, they're going up all the time.
Yeah.
And we really need complete freedom to act, whatever that action is, and I don't know what that is. So I am extremely concerned that they are going to try and put too many restrictions on it. But if that's the case, we should say no thank you, but we're back to you.
And as you're an active party in the original group, and I hope you continue to be so, I'm sure that voice will be clearly heard. Sorry, Councillor Penny, anything but first thing, Councillor Price.
Yes, thank you. As I understand it, the proposal is to continue the dialogue on the basis that's proposed.
Yes.
So we aren't being asked this evening to take a final decision, and I'm prepared to let it go forward. On that basis, we will come back to it. We will address the point that's quite rightly been raised by Councillor Carter. And we will need to look at it carefully at that point. But I think it's right to continue the discussion.
I agree. And let's not forget, the Sandwich Agreement has some 70 odd years to run. So it's not as if being saddled with it, the town will be saddled with it, if that's the word we want to choose, well beyond our lifespan. So this is about, from a personal perspective, a sensible discussion to be had. Councillor Morehouse.
Yeah, just 2 questions. Point, the sandwich parking agreement is being addressed separately,
Yeah.
and underneath that, ownership of other assets, and I should declare an interest here, including the cinema requires clarification. There may be other assets, e.g. the WI building, as part of the Community Development Association. should declare an interest in that
Mhm.
respect. But all I want to ask is about timescales.
Yes, and they haven't been generous enough to give us timescales. The only timescale is they want to try and get this resolved before the unitary councils are in place.
Okay, thank you.
27. Possibly. Sorry, sorry, Councillor.
Would the car parks come under this? Because if we had the car parks, we could have them cheaper, couldn't we? Rather than council every year, Dover District whapping them up in line with Dover and Deal, which is, they've got a far bigger impact, commercial impact than they Dover and Deal, so I suppose the key doesn't do, I think we could do more with the key than what Dover District Council does.
They're not within the scope of this discussion. The car park, half of the car park, we are separately through the property manager progressing that because we agreed a year's extension to discuss what we might want to do in terms of relationship with either DDC or a third party. Councillor.
Was there any reason given why they excluded the WI building? It does seem a slight omission. They've given us lots of details about buildings which are no longer in anybody's possession in the public sector. But they haven't said why WI was not.
Because it's not within the sandwich agreement.
Ah.
So the sandwich agreement listed
Oh,
a
of course, we're so old. Yes.
number of buildings, the
And this was built
majority
later.
of which are now discharged. So it's left a small rump of buildings.
Just for information, Councillor Black, the WI building was negotiated by myself and Councillor Holloway.
Right.
To transfer over to SCA. That was back in 2015, 2016.
Right, thank you.
Councillor Berry.
Yeah, just to follow on from Councillor Morehouse's comments, I do feel there's a 25-year lease on that regard from the SCA to DPC. I think it was built just after when the old farmers market was demolished years ago. So I have a couple of questions. So one, it goes to another item on the agenda that we have soon, would be the Guildhall. If it's a great idea to have the Guildhall, I do feel that the Guildhall may be a good idea for an application for an ACV as well. Whether that's the case, if it could be done, I'm not sure. This has to be spoken about. Could we do that?
Sorry,
ACV obviously is asset community value, isn't it? So
well, yes. So I wouldn't have a discussion now about that. I think you need to investigate the potential for doing that, and if there is a reason why we might want to do it, we can't just drop it into the discussion tonight. But there may be scope having a conversation about that.
yeah. The other thing it's also STC doesn't own the car park at the back. It's Tollbridge Fund, isn't it?
Yes, very true. Very good point. Yeah, which again demonstrates the complexity of what we've got. So if there's no other comments, if I could just run through the recommendations. Firstly, we've been asked to note the updating principles of the proposed agreement. If there are any dissenting voices, if you can voice them, if not, we'll vote on them at the end. Consider whether to support the proposed transfer of assets and termination of the sandwich agreement on the basis outlined, so this is the principle. Provide direction on entering into formal negotiations with DDC. Future governance arrangements involving STC and SDBF, and that the current representatives, which are in the first meeting, councillors, myself, Black, Gray and Wiles, together with the town clerk and property manager, should take us forward. And also whether public consultation should be undertaken once a firm set of proposals have been agreed between both parties. I think it's difficult to answer the last bullet until we see what it is that we're agreeing. So in essence, what I'm asking for is a recommendation that we agree that it's a path that we need to follow, that the people who have been involved so far should continue in those discussions, but they have a responsibility to bring it back to the council, which is the final point. And once we might need to engage legal advice, and we'll need to get those costs declared as well through the council.
Propose acceptance.
Proposing
Happy to second that.
we vote on that? Thank you very much. And what I will make sure, because I'm one of the named parties, I'm sure the others involved as well, will keep the council fully updated as soon as we get to hear something, which, based on the current time speed it's going at, will come back probably June or July.
Question. But just talk about the fabric of the guild, I was just looking at the little bit at the bottom. Does that mean the paintings don't come into it, Dover District Council? They pulled a flanker with Guild Council because Deal had a turn up and Deal wanted the town hall back. They gave up having a parish council, they went to Charter Trustees. When they went back to parish council because they were jealous of us, and then they didn't have a town hall, so Dover said, oh, we can have the town hall, but give us the Turner painting.
Oh.
But they couldn't do that because it's privately donated to the people of Deal. But got to be very careful with that Dover mob.
I think we've accepted the recommendations. What we really would, I'll have a chat with you at some point over a cup of coffee on that, Councillor Franklin, because
Our history lesson.
it's a bit of a throwaway
You've got to have a
line.
free building, but you've got to pay for the painting.
Yeah, it's a bit of a throwaway line in what it is, but there's nothing behind that in terms of explanation. So that's what will come out in the next stage of discussions.
You're not called Dover Sharp to nothing.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, moving on, trying to keep the pace. Update on the insurance claim. Town Clerk, would you like to introduce this brief report?
Well, fortunately, it is a brief report. The insurance claim that was hanging over us at the end with the case due to go to trial on 1st of May. The individual who was claiming damages from the council has, what was the word? It was issued a notice of discontinuance. I didn't know what that meant, so I emailed her back. It basically means she's dropped it. So it's all gone well.
Great.
So I'd like to propose we receive that report. So I don't want to dwell on it. Seconded, Councillor Franklin. I think we've had enough discussion on that one. Thank you, that's unanimous. Okay, moving on to agenda item 14. So Councillor Mallett's going to introduce this one. So in the Heritage and Townscape Committee, we had a discussion over a couple of meetings about assets of community value, and the agreement there was that should there be any need to consider an asset, that we would put it in front of the council, and the chair would take that responsibility. So Councillor Mallett, over to you.
Right, thank you. Thank you. As the Mayor has said, this came to me as the Chair of the Heritage and Townscape. I've done a very short, and it was commented, it's a short sort of summary of the purpose of the report. Basically, because it's come to me as Chair, and my point was, as Chair, I'm chairing the meeting, I'm not doing everything. We hear that the King's Arms will, the current tenant of the King's Arms will be looking at finishing what they're doing. I am not completely up to date with quite what is going on, but there looks like an end to the King's Arms. Possibly it might be taken over, because we've recently seen the Fleur, the tenant there, leave. Nobody knew what was going to happen. There was no interest in the same way. We haven't discussed asset of community value in terms of the Fleur. It's back in business in much the same way. It is a pub with a hotel, restaurant and everything in it. It looks like it's doing well. The previous tenant of the Fleur has moved on to the Market Inn. Everything's working well. So King's Arms, we don't know what's going to happen there. However, the proposal is that it might be considered as an asset of community value, being an old or ancient pub within Sandwich with a long history, and to actually seriously look at it as an asset of community value. What value is it to Sandwich, the community, the history? What is really going on? What is the likelihood of somebody else coming in and running it as a pub? Because after all, some people sort of have an approach to running a pub. Doesn't quite work for them, they want to move somewhere else. Another person moves in and checks it on and it does work, or they spend a year trying. But fundamentally, it does need somebody to look at it as a potential asset of community value and do a little bit more research, which at the moment I'm afraid I don't have time to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Morehouse.
You asked the question, what value is it to Sandwich? It's priceless. It's a good meeting venue. Gays and Salts Nature Reserve use it. the Sandwich Community Events Association use it. It's got a very decent function room upstairs, which doesn't cost an arm and a leg, which the Bell Hotel does these days. So we do our level best to protect it. It's one of those few spaces in town where you can actually have an AGM with a decent number of people in.
Councillor Carter?
I just want to, with a different hat on, obviously chair of the Sandwich History Society, I'd like to say obviously I'm very much in favour of this, and I think on behalf of my committee, I think we would really like to see that this property remains as it is. It's not turned into, God forbid, flats or Airbnb or something awful like that. The history of that building needs to be retained, and the heritage of it. There's a lot of history, I won't say rumours, of people that have stayed there and that have visited and all sorts of things over the years, including royalty. It's our duty to undertake this ABC, I would say.
Councillor Miles and Councillor.
Yeah, I would certainly support this, but going beyond it, I would suggest that we look at other assets within the town. Not just other pubs and so on, but all of the assets owned by the STC or STC as trustee of the Tollbridge Fund, the cinema, the drill hall, etc. We could all nominate those to DDC as assets. Not suggesting we're going to sell them off, but a future council might decide to do so, and if we can protect them now, then it would be worthwhile, I think.
Okay, so I would just say that we had a lengthy discussion about this in Heritage and Townscape. So I think the thing is, people need to be careful that in terms of assets of community value, we need to understand actually what it delivers. What it doesn't do is stop the sale. Also, what it doesn't do is protect a property indefinitely. So, King's Arms is a really important establishment and should be protected as best possible. However, the reality is, if it is registered as an asset of community value, all it does is it gives a community group entitlement to a period to try and get the seller, and it is on the market already, the seller to engage and choose it to be sold to the community group. The property is on the market, I believe, 650 or 675 plus VAT. Not to say that's going to be the sale price. So you have to be going in with your eyes open, because anybody who is a community group that considers that they could put forward a use for it, protecting it, needs to have that level of investment available. So in the Heritage and Townscape we had a good conversation because we had a long list, and it does nothing apart from churns up the DDC machine in terms of looking at applications. You have to have a goal, you have to have a perspective, you have to have an understanding of what you're trying to achieve. Because DDC will not, because if you look on the register that's there, the numbers are very small. So they will be challenged rightfully, and they'll be accepted rightfully. So you just need to be careful that we don't run away with ourselves, which is what we did in the Heritage and Townscape to start with, and then we had a reality check, I think, on Mallet. And we came up with the decision that if something triggered, we would come forward with it, which is what we're doing.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, that's an observation, but just be careful. This is not a silver bullet. It means that we know there is a community effort out there that would want to take over the King's Arms, and that's when you then sensibly go and get it as an asset of community value. Councillor Morris.
I'm proposing it as a stake and ground exercise.
Yep. So, in terms of pursuing it, yep. Any other comments? Sorry, Councillor Panty,
Thank you. Yes, I do support the proposal for the CV. I am concerned about two things, not only the community use, but the actual visual aspect. It's very important at that point on Strand Street, I think, to maintain the whole character of the town, and I can imagine developers looking at that with some interest, and I think what the ACV seems to me to do is just raise a flag. It's true, absolutely, that we need a plan how to follow that up, but at least it sort of registers that there is a community value to be taken into consideration.
Councillor Alex.
Yes, if I can just, the recommendations to receive the report,
Yep.
essentially we've done this.
Yep.
To decide if the King's Arms should be identified as an asset of community value.
Yep.
I believe the comments that have come back have said yes. The key point, and I want to try and emphasise here, and I totally agree, it is something that is very important to us in the same way as the Fleur was, because that is a meeting place, and that actually has history of every single negotiation, exchange of animals, whatever, many farms changing hands, all happened at the Fleur.
Corn
So-
market.
At the corn market, yes, and that was it. That the Fleur represents that in that background. So there is a historical element of the Fleur which we didn't look at because we didn't really know about assets of community value. We hadn't focused on that. So we've seen what can happen, and it worked. We didn't do anything, and it was a success anyway. With the King's Arms, it needs somebody, if we are going to go through with an asset of community value application, who is keen, who is actually engaged with it, which I must admit I'm not. Not that I'm against it, I'm very for it, but I just don't have the time at the moment. And that last point, to decide who leads in obtaining this designation. So I think that is the key point here.
I think it is, but I think we can go through each of the recommendations.
Just as a point of information, there are 19 assets of community value in Dover district.
Yeah, very small numbers.
And 17 have been rejected.
So the numbers are small, so it isn't about coming up with a list, which we had, I think, of 20 or so to start with. The sandwich.
20 or 30.
Yeah. So I think we can go through each of them, and let's hope on the last one somebody jumps up and say, I'm really excited, I want to do it. So I'd like to propose we receive a report. Somebody have to second that?
Second that.
Councillor Carter, good. That's the easy bit. The next one is to decide if it should be identified as an ACV. Could we vote on that?
Yeah, happy to second that.
2 abstentions, the rest in favour. And then, could be a tumbleweed moment, to decide who leads in obtaining this designation. So what this will involve is completing an application form, but I think to do it properly, whoever does it needs to investigate the history, because that will be part of it. It needs to be a compelling case, and I would suggest that there is homework that will be needed, but it is an application form that goes to Dover District Council for them to assess. So, would somebody like to step forward to say they will do it?
I'm quite happy from a history point of view to lead on this and then report back to the council if
So
necessary.
and that's brilliant, thank you. Could I ask that the report comes for us? We've got a meeting 18th of May, I believe. What would be really good is if you could do between now and then, which is 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because time is important.
Sure,
Yeah.
indeed.
Okay. Thank you.
Are we going to vote on?
We need to vote on that one.
Yes.
Would anybody like to?
Anyway, I'm going to propose.
Anybody have to second?
Definitely.
Councillor Morehouse. Everybody in favour?
Oh, I've changed my mind.
Thank you.
So vote Councillor
Mallet
Mallet.
and Morehouse.
Morehouse, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Right. Moving on to agenda item 15, relocation of Georgina Maddox piano. In the absence of a committee manager, town clerk, are you happy to talk to this? I suppose I'm slightly concerned that there's so many options that are been included to decide on, but let's give it a go.
Yes, I mean, I think we can really simplify it. I think the first thing is that we looked at the Delph room, and it was going to be it would take up too much space and remove the flexibility of use of that room. However, property manager and the assistant town clerk who obviously takes lead on events and guild bookings, thinks it would go well in the galleries where it can go at the end and create just, I suppose, a chamber concert music vibe or a jazz vibe. They often have the bar in there for big events, so it could be quite nice and wouldn't. We've spoken to the hirers, regular hirers, and they don't think it would be obstructive. So the best recommendation is to move the piano to the gallery. In terms of refurbishment, there are various costs which are not avoidable. For example, there's an ongoing cost. I don't think the property manager had it at this point of £75 twice a year for tuning, so that wasn't available when this report was issued. So that's sort of ongoing costs. There are then moving costs of actually moving it upstairs, which are about
350, £60.
yeah. I think he's looked at it again. It might be a bit more, but yeah, 360 plus VAT. Yes, that's it. So then it's really as to if we were to keep the piano, whether we go for just doing the action, which is 2,850, or doing the whole piano, including all of the the metal work as well as the actions, and that would be then 11,650. So then the sort of cosmetic refurb is a further 5,000 on top. So that's repolishing and making the case look beautiful. So there's lots of figures about what it could be worth, what it could be worth. I've spoken to, Julian's spoken to, lots of people have spoken to. The reality is that selling it, sort of trying to find someone to just give the piano to hasn't been very successful. None of the schools can take it. It's very hard to be home because it's such a large piano. So we can try and sell it, but we're not going to get any money for it, or we refurb it and use it really. So it's what the council wants to do, whether you want to refurb it and use it or sell it at whatever cost we get, which will be basically nothing. And then once you've decided that, whether you want to do what level of restoration, if you want to do that, to go with.
Okay, so
Helpful.
yeah, so start at 10. I think for me, there's a couple of options here that we probably don't want to pursue, but I will take any challenges on that and leave them in. But I would suggest do nothing and leave in. Reception is not an option. It's been sitting there for 3 years. In its current position, it's completely out of kilter with that area. So I would propose that we don't accept that option. And my final one is option 5. If this is an emotional tie around a piano that was owned by Georgina Maddox, I don't see why we'd go out and buy another piano somehow to suggest that replaces and satisfies the emotion around that. So that's the start of the 10. Councillor Black.
Well, it strikes me that we've been received so much from Georgina Maddox. I suggest that it gets moved to a place where it stands a much better chance of being used. And if you're going to use it, you need the minimum refurbishment of the mechanism, which is the 2,800.
Yeah.
The refurbishment of the wood and everything else is a nice to have. It's not essential to have. And the full strip down at 11,000 doesn't strike me as worth it. So I propose that we move it and we do the essential refurbishment so it's playable and it can be used by a whole number of functions. And I would suggest that's a very good use of it. It's still honouring her legacy, but it's within a sensible financial limit.
So we'll take comments before we go to any votes at all. Councillor Wiles first and Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, I think the value of the piano is irrelevant. It's not about the value and what we might get for it. The fact is, this is the only artefact that Georgina owned that still exists. Everything else is gone. Property, possessions, everything. And she was a music person. This is a piano. She left 3 million to this building, effectively. And I think putting that artefact in this building, in the gallery, would honour the amazingly generous donation that or request that she's made to this council. So I think we have to not think about the value of it, but we have to think about what that piano represents in terms of her legacy and her bequest. I mean, obviously I would prefer the full caboodle, but I don't think this council is likely to go for the 16,000. So I would go for option 1C, which is the 7,850, to bring it back into full working order and to restore the case. When Brian Orwell came in and played the piano, it has a beautiful sound. It's very rich. It's not a concert level piano, but we're not looking for that. We're looking for a piano that someone can play background music, drinks receptions, cocktail parties, whatever it might be, at weddings and so on. So I think having it in the Georgina, in the gallery rather, would be a good a way of honouring her request.
Councillor Morehouse?
I know what Councillor Riles is saying. I do agree with Councillor Black though on spending the minimum for the refurbishment. If that then generates interest and usage, then we can look at spending additional funds in the future.
Councillor Carter?
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Wiles, as I have done over the previous meetings. I think we should go for option 1C. The reason for being is before anybody even hears the piano, they will see the piano, and we don't want something that's still tatty. Also, if you note from this report, it says that a piano that has had the case refurbished as well as the internal mechanisms is worth just a shade under £20,000. So if it looks good, it's going to sound good. The two other things that I wanted to tie in with is one thing that Councillor Wiles is wrong about is for some of us there are still some things that remain from Georgina Maddox, and Councillor Mrs Carter and I have got some very fond memories of helping her in her later years when she came out of hospital. So we've got some very, very fond memories of her. The last thing is the music scholarships, and I think it's very important. I was only talking to the head of Sandwich Technology School at the latter end last week. They're very, very interested in music scholarships, particularly piano, and I think that having a piano here could tie in with the music scholarships. So I would back Councillor Wiles' proposal on option 1C.
Councillor Mallett?
I think this, most of what I'm going to be saying has been said by Councillor Carter and Councillor Wiles. And also with regard to the money, I don't think we should look at the money.
No.
We should actually sort of say, she's given us a huge amount. We donate the equivalent of 3 lots, 5,000 plus 5 plus 5, that's £15,000 on a regular basis. Well, it will be a regular basis, so that will be 3 donations. If we went for the premier option, we end up with something that people will want to come and play. And I do wonder if that attraction will bring named people in the same way as we've had Hellmans come to us. We might have some really well-known pianists in that same way. We have the name, and quite honestly, when in the context of £3 million, 15 grand is neither here nor there, quite honestly. And we've been talking about memorials to Georgina Maddox, this, that and the other. Surely that is the memorial that would be the ideal. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Marie?
Yeah, I've always been quite sceptical regarding the piano, as people have heard me say and spoken about. However, seeing this, if the money is going to come out of Georgina Maddox Fund, which I'm sure it will do, then I think we should personally go for option C, and also, and in Georgina's legacy as well, is to rename the gallery the Georgina Maddox Room, because the piano will be in there.
Yeah, I've actually been there and heard it when she played it. It's got a beautiful tone to that when it's tuned up. And like you say, she did love music. She got a music scholarship, and I think we should go for the full amount and get it done properly restored. And then if we can have a music scholar, as a scholarship, could come and give us a little concert in her memory. I know if you're going to rename the room, perhaps it could even have a little plaque on it, as her memorial. We didn't have plans for a memorial, do we? Talked about bits of land and other pieces. So it'd be nice to have an abstract, something that's absolutely physical, to say, Georgina, because a lot of her stuff got sold off, like fruits and all that sort of stuff. So I think you'd not have that in a Guildhall perfectly restored.
Thank you. Okay, one more comment, sorry, we'll go around the house again.
Sorry. I just wanted to clarify where the money was coming from.
It will be from the Georgina Maddox Fund.
Funds
From the income,
From the income.
what did we decide tonight?
it's 100,000 or more a year.
So what I would suggest is, we will go in reverse order, taking the most expensive option. Any of, if they fall, then we'll move downwards, and then to the do nothing, if that's acceptable.
Can I just, Councillor Franklin mentioned about renaming the gallery. I would like to come back to that. I don't know if I can do that after.
No, we need to keep that separate, I would
Yes.
suggest.
Mm.
It's not in the report,
It's not in the report.
Sorry,
yeah, that's
but
correct.
standing orders, motions not requiring notice, a motion to vote in relation to any agenda topic. So we can't, it was on the agenda for last week about renaming it. So I would like to put that forward to this meeting.
I don't think that's appropriate, I'd have to take advice on that. We haven't got recommendation here, a question on,
Motions not requiring notice
yes,
for the meeting.
Yep.
Put a motion to the vote in relation to any agenda topic. This is an agenda topic.
well, that's how broad the topic is, it's not
That's all right.
stated here.
Just in terms of ease, would it not be easier if we put a quick agenda item on for the 18th of May, when, and then we
It's
do
just, I
I
think
don't know what
we've been talking about this for so long.
Yes, and that's why we are making a decision, I think, starting to regard.
I'm quite happy to make a suggestion that we obviously, we have time, it's not like we're going to rush, because that's, if we choose the bigger option, it's going to take a long time for them to fix it. So may I suggest that the naming of the
Yeah, I'm happy.
is
I'll
put
take
in the
advice on that,
Maddox
but-
Management Committee and
Yeah.
then walk to
If
STC.
you can come back on the 18th of May, that's fine.
So, I suggest we start with option 2C, if somebody, and that relates to a full refurbishment, plus a case restoration, total estimate is £16,650 to come out of the Georgina Maddox Fund. Can somebody propose that?
Vote.
Second? Vote on that.
Okay, so we've got,
Against.
how much?
3 against, 2 abstentions, and the rest are in favour.
Right, I can't count.
So it's majority,
Say that again.
3 against,
3 against,
2,
2 abstentions, and the remainder, 1, 2,
we're
3,
12
4,
tonight.
5,
So,
6,
Whoops, it was that. Put it down there.
7 in favour.
7.
So that is carried. That is carried.
Do you think we should have a second motion so that it, just to be sure that it's quite clear that it's being paid for out of the Georgina Maddox Fund? I think?
I'm happy to propose that.
Somebody else second that? Franklin?
In the context of 3 million, it's
Did you abstain, Councillor Clayton, on that one?
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so before we move on to confidential matters, I just want to announce dates of next meeting. So the next council meeting is the annual town council meeting on the 13th of May at 6 p.m, followed by mayor making at 7 p.m.
This coming Wednesday.
13th of May.
Okay, yeah.
Then we also have the STC quarterly meeting, the full council, on Monday the 18th of May at 7 p.m. Okay, so confidential matters. To resolve under Public Bodies Emissions Meetings Act 1960 in accordance with Standing Order 7.3.2 to exclude the press and public on the grounds that publicity will be prejudicial to the public interest by reason of the confidential nature of business to be transacted. We have two items. Firstly, STC Full 2617, safety of councillors, officers and the public on the grounds that cited it would allow potential disruptors to know our reactions and responses in advance. A good vote on that. If somebody had to propose that we go into
Propose
confidence,
acceptance.
and Councillor Moore has a seconded, if we vote on that. That's unanimous. The second item, I think Councillor Franklin was in support of that.
Yeah, I thought I was, yeah.
Maybe I didn't see. Then STC 42618, council has a duty under law, for example as an employer, to individuals whose personal data or other confidential information is required to be or is likely to discuss. I'm happy to propose that.
Seconds.
Councillor Morehouse has seconded. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Public meeting closed. 5 minutes break?
Okay.